Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 31st, 2021 at approximately 7:14 a.m. PST. Before I get into it, I just want to send a special thank you to one of my viewers here. One of you guys. I made a comment a few weeks ago about the fact that I burned my coffee pot out. Okay, I just mentioned it in passing. That was where it was going to end. I was going to go find one eventually. However, I got a private message from one of the viewers stating they would look into it for me, asking what kind of coffee pot I was looking for. Okay, that viewer subsequently sent me a link to go and get one, plus offered the assistance. As I've mentioned to you guys before, technology is not exactly my strong suit. So this individual sent me a link, which I will be responding to today with an offer to help me as far as the online purchase goes, which gives you an idea of just how successful I've been there. Okay, so that would be the first thing that I desire to say thank you for. The other one is I will be posting shortly. I've got a couple of things left to do with it, but the artist that I found for Races of the Worlds has come through with flying colors. So we will be dealing with part of that as well, and a special thank you to that individual as well. Okay, now, as I said, I'm a spiritual guide. Therefore, in my opinion, if I'm going to offer you tools, I'd best be actually utilizing them. Okay, that would be the most important thing right off the bat. And with that in mind, hold that thought for just 1 second. Well, as this is a live recording, that little pause was because my other half dropped me a message that I had to respond to right away. At least, in my opinion, I had to respond to. Now, that brings me to another point here. This is a live recording, okay, which simply means once I'm done the recording, I do not go back and edit anything. All pauses, all hiccups, all trips, all stumbles, you get them. Okay, because the way I figure, if you run into me in person, you'll find I do exactly the same thing, except I don't speak quite so much with my hands unless I'm sitting down with nothing for them to do. That said, for those of you that have very busy lives, okay, now I hear this a lot from people in different relationships. Oh, I'm too busy. Well, let me tell you, if you desire your relationship to work, whether you're male or female, doesn't matter. Okay, it only takes a moment to send a quick message to say, hey, thinking of you. Or, as I just did, a message came in with a question. Okay, now, we live in different cities. Frankly, we live in different countries. Okay, but both of us are making the effort to communicate. Therefore, when my partner decided to message me, I went, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that I got the message, but I'm in the middle of recording the journey. Therefore, I will get back to you as soon as I'm done. That way, she knows that I've got the message, and she knows I'm paying attention. Okay, now this does not mean if you're a driving truck, it does not mean that you have to stop, pull over to the side of the road, and respond right away. It means the moment you do get a chance, make sure you take that moment out. Now you think about it. Okay, like I said, these are tools I personally use. Now I'm currently writing 32 books in 5 different genres all at the same time. Okay, I also have a full-time job, a girlfriend, and a child living at home with me. I've got a pretty hectic life. It doesn't take long to leave a message and say, hey, thinking of you. Okay, even if that's all you send. I strongly recommend people say good morning to each other, especially if you're long distance. Okay, say good morning to each other, say good night. At the very, very, very least, it keeps the communication running. Now, don't forget the other little problem, and I've seen this done before. My apologies, sometimes I don't get a chance to pause before I do that. Anyway, Very important that honesty and integrity are maintained. By the way, there are some of you out there that seem to have got that message a little backwards. I was talking to one individual that thought that being honest meant, well, I can still do what I please, and as long as I apologize and I'm honest and tell the person about it, it's okay. Bad news. Infidelity, whether you're honest about it or not, is infidelity. And, the reality is, I'm pretty fussy that way, and I made it very clear to my other half, and she subsequently made it very clear to me. Neither one of us share well. Okay. The fact that we're talking about being honest, okay, falls under that second law. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. This does not mean break your word and then tell somebody later. That neat little idea of it's easier to ask forgiveness than to get permission. More often than not, it really is. Problem is that if it's done that way, you got to look at the do unto others thing. If you desire people to ask you for your permission to use your stuff, best you be asking them for permission to use theirs. Yep, temperature is still rather on the high side. So, did I? I don't know, so I'm not going to worry about it. Don't mind me, I was just trying to debate whether I actually took my medication this morning. I think I did, but I'm not 100% certain. Okay, but I'm just waiting until I run out anyway. I'm using it as a crutch. In other words, just a temporary balance point. But I'm correcting my health in the process. Talking to health professionals to find out how to modify dietary needs, exercise requirements, and specifically target things like improving the health of my pancreas, improving my heart strength, so I can bring my pulse down. Like right now, my pulse is sitting at in my opinion, it's a little high. I don't know if it's high comparatively, but I do know how to find out. So I'll look into that in a little while. The reality is, I'm looking into my health because to me, I don't get ill. I don't get ill because of a couple of things. One, really good genes, and number two, and this might be the whole issue behind it in all fairness, I don't have time to get ill, so I just don't bother. But, that said, when you're looking at the way your life is, the way your energy in your house is running, all of these things work together, and that's why one of the big tasks that I've got, one of the big goals that I've got in this life, and quite frankly, the primary reason I returned, was as a spiritual guide, and I've been here for centuries. Do understand, you have to remember your past lives in order to be able to realize that. I think at last count I documented something like 28 or 38 of them. I really don't know at this point. Okay, but I do know I'm going to be going into a lot more work on marking down the ones I remember. Whether or not I ever publish it or not, that one's another issue altogether. I mean, the reality is, people, when you're talking past lives, and the fact that I'm a science fiction, science fantasy author at the same time, all of a sudden everybody lumps the whole thing into the imagination. Which is great, and absolutely, take it as you will. The reason I no longer look at it as just imagination is because of the fact that many of my past lives have been identified first by a total stranger. And then the memories came back. Okay. Funny thing was, I had one memory that I wasn't even remotely looking for. I was at a psychic fair, and I was just at the fair, and I stopped for lunch. Okay, we took a break, went to the restaurant for lunch. The waitress asked where we were from, which is a normal question for a waitress. So we told her, I told her where we were from, and she asked if she could tell me about a dream. So I said, yeah, by all means. Of course, she was working while we were open, like while we were at the fair. So this was the only way we could that she would get time to talk to us. So I said, absolutely. And so she laid out the first start of the dream. And she goes, I don't quite remember the color of my dress. And I immediately started rattling off the whole thing. Basically, what it boiled down to was she remembered being standing on a bluff, okay, in Northern Ireland. Quite literally, if you go from Dublin, Ireland, and you go due northwest until you hit the Atlantic coast, that's where we were, in a little fishing village. Well, she remembered standing on the bluff. It was really cold. Can't imagine why that was. But she heard hoof steps behind her. I think that's the wrong word for it, but you get the idea. Horse running behind her. She didn't see anything. In all fairness, she didn't recall looking over her shoulder. But she remembered hearing the hoof prints, the sound of the hoof beats. And then all of a sudden she felt a shove and she ended up falling, right? She remembered hitting the water and she remembered somebody there. Well, she remembered falling and that was where that ended, right? And she says, I remember I was wearing a dress, but I don't remember anything else. And we says, well, the dress was kind of a tan color, right? But it was a really, really nice little dress, right? The hoofbeats were your fiance shoving you off the cliff. Now, I could go into a longer detail on that, and one day I may. But when I laid it all out to her, it hit so solid for her that she brought her husband down the following day, and he met me, and her husband, as it turned out, she and I, in 1828, were boyfriend and girlfriend. And we came from two very different classes. Okay, I was a fisherman, she was high society from the city. Originally from the city. Anyway, her fiance had murdered her because she had broken up with him. Right? I happened to see it. And when she brought her husband down this lifetime to talk to me, we talked about it for a little bit, and it was the husband that invited me out to their place for dinner with her and her 12-year-old son. The next 3 years when I went up there, because I was going up there on a regular basis, next 3 years I came up with the fair. Her husband was the one that made sure that I got out to their place to have dinner. And when we asked him about the issue of, well, what about, about the fact that her and I were boyfriend and girlfriend, and he goes, yeah, you were 200 years ago. Right? He says, there's been a lot that's happened. I'm just not going to worry about it. I says, makes sense. So past lives do have an impact. Now I'll tell you, from my standpoint, and this is one of the reasons why I say it is absolutely imperative that you do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Because like it or not, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like whether or not you believe in gravity. You can say gravity doesn't work or it doesn't exist, or I don't believe in anything I can't see. You step off a 14th floor on a balcony, and I'll tell you, the odds are pretty good you're going to bounce on the concrete below. Unless it happens to be over top of water. And here's a side note. I've watched a lot of videos on some of these things, and I found out one really neat thing. The functional difference between landing on water from 500 feet in the air and landing on the concrete is, on the concrete your skin breaks, on the water it doesn't tend to. But I'll tell you, it'll still play havoc with the inside of your body. But this lifetime, because this is the only time in your entire existence that you can ever do anything, this lifetime, right here, right now, is the only time you can accomplish anything. That said, if you pay attention to what you're doing this lifetime, it will have a bearing, and I can say this from absolute certainty. It will have a bearing on how your life goes next lifetime. Okay, because here's the short answer of what happened. After I watched my girlfriend get murdered in front of me in 1828, the next lifetime I came back, which was right before World War I started, I came back madder than a wet hen. Now, do I remember my name? No. Okay, heck, I have trouble remembering my name this lifetime. But the very next lifetime after watching my fiance, not my fiance, we weren't engaged. We were just boyfriend, girlfriend. But watching her get murdered, I came back this lifetime as a very, very angry child. To the end point of which, at 6 years old, I killed my abusive father. Okay. Now, the really bad part of that was the way that the court system worked at that time. They looked at me and went, he didn't kill him. Yes, he stabbed him, but he didn't kill him. They called it a technicality because of the fact I was only 6. So they got me into therapy and what have you, and that, trust me on this, didn't work all that well. I spent a lot of years, that lifetime, doing a lot of damage, killing a lot of people, and most of it, and I'll call it government sanctioned because they're the ones that put me in the military and say, go use your abilities out there and kill our enemies. Well, I did that very well, okay, and I still have a great deal of respect for the people that choose to join the military to defend their country or their community. And by the way, for me, the military, the police, the first responders, they're all in the same category. They're choosing to put their lives on the line to help the people of their communities, or to help people in general. And I've got a lot of respect for those people. A lot of questions around the orders that are given from up higher. But then, way back in the time of the kings and knights, at that point when the leader of a country said we're going to war, he was out in the front of the army. He was not pointing and saying, go kill those people over there. He was out there going, we're going to kill those people. And when I'm talking it's like, okay, guys, get on your horse. I'm on mine. I'm out the door. Follow me. See if you can protect me. Actually, in all fairness, it was a lot more complicated than that. But the point being, the military leaders back then put their own necks on the line. They did not dress in suits. Okay, they did not. They did dress nicely when they weren't in armor. But when they went out to war, they were right in there with what people today call the grunts and what I call the real backbone of any military. So for those of you that are military, those of you that are first responders, big thumbs up to you. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You deserve more thanks than you ever really functionally get. And yes, I know you guys don't do it for the accolades. You don't do it for the pat on the back. You've got your own reasons, and more power to you. Now, hopefully we'll get a thumbs up out of this video ourselves, and do subscribe to our channel. Okay, don't forget to ring the alert bell on the right-hand side of that little button to let you know when the next ones come up. Because the one goal that I've got for these videos is to get this message out to the entire world, to the people that are watching it, and the people that you guys talk to. Okay, that working together, we can make this world a better place overall for the majority of people. Now, certainly there will be people that it doesn't work for. The people that think they enjoy it, just take my word for it, you're going to have to go through another lifetime probably to figure this one out. Many people that are bullying think they're enjoying it or think they're getting back at the person that bullied them. Or at least that's the way it seems. Okay, but the next lifetime, if you've been a bully this lifetime, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to get worse the next one. Okay, I was in the issue I just talked about when I was a fisherman, I was very much pacifist aside from where it came to the fish. The lifetime following it, I came back and was anything but nice. Okay, and yeah, I think I should I've been asked a couple of times to go into renditions of that, but not today. Okay, I've still got this list, and I'm going through a fair chunk of it, which is a good thing. Okay, I'm going to. I think I had a video. Nope, somewhere in there. Anyway, not gonna waste my time on that. I've got a lot of things I gotta get done today. I did manage to get finances worked out yesterday. I've got a bunch of new tracking to set up for tomorrow because I really want to have that on top of things. I know for an absolute certainty that I created all kinds of problems for myself to start with. Okay, by overlooking. You know, when I got all the finances out of the way, I did what I should have, put a whole pile into investments for my future, paid off all my bills, but I did not correct the thinking process. That I hope I have done at this point, and I'll call it hope because time will tell whether I manage to sink it in. Okay, but I am doing my level best to make sure it happens. That said, I also went back into the Yldrbac Chronicles, which is the other big project I've got on the go, the 12 volume saga. First one's already out in print. The second one should be out later this year. We're in the middle of doing final edit on it. And as soon as it's ready to go, we will put it to print. Okay, in the meantime, we're putting the finances together. But what I did with that was I turned around and the spreadsheet I'm using to track characters and what have you, I reorganized that, reset it all to just having it's all the same color. I've got it all color coded, and for those of you that are colorblind or are blind altogether, you'll have to find your own methods. But I color coded things so that I've got all this data there. When I track a character down, I can mark it off and know that character has been tracked down. If it happens to be in the book that I've published, then I will lock it in and put it in another color. I've done the same thing with the books that I'm writing, with all of the saga that I'm writing. I've got them color coded. So first draft is done in one color. When I've gone through and expanded it far enough that I'm content with it, then I shift it to the next color, which will indicate that I'm ready to go to final proof. Okay, to that end, I can track all of it, and I'll be setting the files up today because I've got the office sorted around now. Okay, again, this is accomplished by putting this list together, right? By taking this list, marking it down as I get things done, and I don't expect you to read my handwriting, but I've got the list, and every time I get something done, I check it off. That way, right now I've got a pretty extensive list, but I've got a fair chunk of time today to get things done. That list helps keep me focused, okay, which is why I manage to get things done as much as I do. That and the fact I don't seem to sleep a whole lot. I am curious, because I did get up this morning, obviously. When did I get up, though? Oh, there we go. I got up at 4. It is now 7:30, so I've already got 3.5 hours under my belt. Now, I'll tell you, I worked it out one day. I think I mentioned this, but, and don't take my word for it. Calculate it yourself. But I sat there and looked at it one day and I went, you know, people talk about 8 hours of sleep, you know, requiring 8 hours, and some of you do. The reality of it for me is it makes me very tired when I sleep too long. So what happened was I decided, okay, using 8 hours a night as a sleep pattern. What would happen if you cut your hours to 4 hours a night, but did not lose health or quality of life? Okay, now I calculated out and I thought 4 hours. I had nothing really intentional in mind with it, except just a curiosity thing. Well, I found out this. You cut your hours to sleep to 4 hours a night, meaning you get 4 hours a day extra waking time. Okay, I figured out over the course of 1 year, over the course of 365 days, you're going to gain a total of approximately a month and a half living time. Okay, now, am I a sickly individual? Well, twisted, but as far as health goes, aside from heart attack and a stroke, and one case of double pneumonia, I think probably about 15 years ago, I have not been ill. I haven't had a cold or the flu in over 25 years. Okay. So from that standpoint, am I healthy? It would seem. Am I in perfect shape? Absolutely not. Okay, but I'm working on that. Okay, I'm in the process of putting the exercise in, putting the effort in to make sure I bring my weight, my blood pressure, my pulse all down where I'd like it to go. Which is something else, and like I was already working on my pancreas, because that's where sugar is processed. That's where insulin is dealt with, as far as I understand it. And of course, my teeth enamel, I'm going to have to rebuild them. It's either that or lose them all, so take your pick. And since I have other issues that go along with that, but the thing I also have to now start looking at is what can I do to strengthen my heart, to get my pulse down to a decent level. Now, I don't know, it might be at a decent level. Right now it's saying at 84 beats a minute, and I'm 58 years old. That may be normal. I don't know, I gotta look into it. Okay, but I've got all these things on the go, so are they working for me? Absolutely. Have I already corrected the greater portion of my eyesight? Absolutely. I mean, you think about it. 10 years ago, well, be 2007. So we're looking at 15 years ago almost. If I held my glasses right there, I could not physically see them. Now, I've got 20/20 eyesight for reading. Okay, I still need the glasses for a distance. But this is just adding to the proof that when I'm talking about using tools, offering you tools that work, it's because if they apply to me, I'm already using them. Now, I do not expect you to take my word for it just to say, oh, he said it works, therefore it does. I'll tell you right now, my method for dealing with problem bosses is one that is absolutely, from a business standpoint, suicide, if you put it to use. I cannot explain why I haven't been fired from a job. Okay, and Lord knows it could happen anytime. But, especially when I was younger, I literally told my first boss that when I tell you right now, don't do this. I mean, they say this on all these videos, don't try this at home. Well, I'll tell you, I had somebody that didn't agree with it, that didn't agree. He said, oh, it'll never happen to me. Went and did exactly what I did and got fired in a heartbeat. And of course, I warned him he'd be fired in a heartbeat if he did it. I cannot explain why I didn't get fired. It was just something I said to the boss. Okay, and I'm not going to repeat what it was, because here's the problem. If I repeat what it was, one of the people listening to this video is certainly going to go, well, he said he could do it, and, and they'll totally ignore the fact I said, don't do it. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If you're having a problem with your boss, sit down and talk to him about what the problem is. Okay. As my father used to put it, it takes a bigger man to walk away from a fight than it does to throw the first fight. It's also a whole lot less painful to talk to somebody than it is to take a swing at them. Okay. Now, I do encourage you, find the people that will support, that are of like mind. Be it a church, be it a temple, a coven, a support group, it doesn't matter. I strongly encourage you to sit down and really get to know the people living in the same house as you, especially bloodline family. Sometimes that doesn't work well, and the family you have are your close circle of friends. But very important to reconnect with them. Now, on that note, I'm going to bring this to a close. I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.